Welcome to the Venue Owner series of the Venue Success Podcast. This season is all about connecting you with venue professionals from all across the country so you could hear firsthand the lessons they've learned, the highs, the lows, and everything in between, and what's working and what's not. So today I am joined by Lora Taub. Welcome to the show, Lora.
Hi, Tirza. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I'll be sharing in a little bit how Lora and I met, but just a little bit about Lora. So she has spent nearly 7 years alongside Keith, transforming Hartlot Happening into a welcoming wedding and event venue. And since becoming the co-owner and director in 2025, congratulations. She's loved helping couples bring their wedding visions to life. She has a 25-year background in higher education as a professor of documentary story making, and Lora brings a thoughtful, detail-oriented approach to hosting. Listening deeply, noticing what matters most, and helping couples navigate the venue selection process with confidence. I love that, Lora. That's so amazing. So she's going to share more of her story, as you all know, as we get into today's episode. But before we do so, it's time for Crazy Stories with Tirza and Lora, because people have lost their minds. So I don't know the story. I keep telling everyone, don't tell me your story ahead of time because I want to hear it in real time with all of the listeners. So tell us, Lora, your crazy story.
Okay, here's my crazy story. And when you say, because people have lost their minds, I'm going to just state at the outset that really the only thing that makes my partner Keith lose his mind is a good vintage motorcycle. Loses his mind over motorcycles. So that's where this story starts. It's really important to us that our venue, we're here all the time. We live across the street from the venue. It's where we do our daily work in addition to hosting events and weddings. So it's really important to us that it's our space. It's our space of joy and our hobbies, and that we get to do here the things that make us happy in between all of the weddings. So one of the kind of off the grid spaces at Hartlot Happening, not all guests get to see it, is Keith's bike shop, full of vintage Japanese motorcycles that he's working on, that he's carried across the country from him in trailers, his first bike he ever rode on when he was a little kid. And during weddings, Keith is mostly in his bike shop, tinkering on a motorcycle so that he's at the venue close at hand if we need him, but that's sort of his happy place. He's got a view of what's going on, but he's not in the thick of it. I am. So as the person representing, telling the story of the site, marketing the venue, promoting the venue, I started really just scratching my head, how do I integrate the moto aspect of this? Is that going to turn couples off? Is that going to be distracting from the main message of our venue? I have to figure it out. It's so important to Keith. Well, we had last summer on a rare weekend that we didn't have a wedding, we had a moto social. It was just a Saturday. We threw open the gates. We collaborated with a vintage BMW motorcycle organization, and we had about 100 people ride in from all over the state, from Pennsylvania, just cruising into our venue with some old, some new motorcycles. And there was a really lovely couple that came. They're from the neighborhood. They never knew this place was here, and so we gave them the tour. And we gave them the tour of Keith's bike shop. Well, they were so enchanted by it. They said, we have friends whose kids are getting married, and those kids are like our second kids, so we're going to tell them about Hartlot Happening. And lo and behold, it was the fact of the bike shop and the kind of craft of vintage motorcycles happening behind the scenes that last summer led to the booking of 2 weddings because of the motorcycles. So I think that's kind of a crazy story because Keith often thinks of the motorcycle craft as this just sort of side hobby way in the background. But, for some people, the f the fact that that's happening there is really part of the intrigue, and so this summer, we have a few couples getting married. The groom's getting ready space is going to be in the bike shop.
My goodness.
And some brides are saying, "Oh, great. I'm not going to see my groom or my future father in law at all during the wedding because this is where they're going to be." So that was a
Goodness.
really kind of wild and wonderful serendipitous discovery. And it helped me solve the kind of conundrum in my mind of how do I help people make sense of the multiple creative things that happen here?
I love that is so I did not expect that you were gonna take that twist on that question, but I love that so much. And you know how affirming to Keith that his hobby isn't just a hobby. It's something that really because one of the things I will tell you, Laura, and I've told you this to your face, like I'm so drawn to the way that you guys authentically live your life and that you are just so connected to the things that you're passionate about. I just commend you so much for that, and, I'll share a little bit more about that in a second, but I think that's really, really precious. And it kind of feeds into the fun fact about Keith and Laura. They met 7 years ago. She was sharing this with me, and she's like, they instantly clicked and they discovered that their last names were only one letter off from each other. So Laura's last name is Taub, and Keith's last name is Traub. So she says it felt like an ultimate sign that they were meant to find each other, which is adorable.
Yes, I found my missing consonant.
Oh, that's adorable. I love that. So back to how we met. So I met Laura through actually she pursued me for a diagnostic call, and I'm not sure how you first did you first learn about me through the podcast? Is that what it
I
was?
did. I did.
That's amazing. And so she had signed up for a diagnostic call. And for those of you that are listening and don't know about those, they're just my way of just helping people in a little micro way. And sometimes 45 minutes can just unlock a couple things. And one of the things that I was so impressed by with Laura was her story and her craftsmanship. And she does pottery and teaches classes and all this stuff. And I was like, Laura, tell your story more. Tell what Hartlot happening actually is. Let people feel connected to what it is that you guys are creating there because it's not just a venue, it's their whole life is kind of wrapped up in that space. And so that was a really fun connection that we have. And I was just so impressed by you. I was like, I've got to have you on the podcast. So I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm impressed with what you guys are creating together. It's really special. Um, Let's jump into a little bit about just the venue. Can we start by you? This is the first question I asked you on our diagnostic call. What's Hartlot? And what caused you to? I questioned the name at first, remember? And then when you told me, I was like, okay, sold. So tell
Right.
us why you named your venue Hartlot Happening.
Right. Sure, sure. And, like many people, your first at first glance, you thought the venue was named Harlot Happening. You missed that T, right? It's always that
Uh
one consonant that matters.
huh.
And so Hartlot is the name of this neighborhood. Um, After the Civil War, land granted to General Hart. And so it was Hart's lot. And then over time, that got shortened to Hartlot. And then over time, that tract of land became incorporated into the larger surrounding town of Elbridge and Jordan. But there's such a rich history at Hartlot, and our street name is still Hartlot. There's such a rich history. Neighbors in this on this street still refer to it as Hartlot. There's a lot of nostalgia for what Hartlot used to be. It has its own train depot, which is right behind the venue, that used to be a bustling hub in the Finger Lakes from Syracuse to Skaneateles to Auburn. There used to be on the corner a few hotels. There was live music. There was a bar. The judge lived across the street. And our venue is restored from the original beanery that operated here since the 19th century. And for those who don't know, a beanery is a bean processing factory. Farmers would bring their bean harvests, whether kidney bean, red bean, and then at the beanery through like a 3-story puzzle of bins and chutes and ladders, these beans would get dried and bagged, and then out the back barn doors loaded onto the railroad tracks. And that history is just undeniable here. It's part of the place. And one of the ways that we really approach our venue and our presence in this community is to honor and live into the historical meaning of this place. So it's not a beanery anymore. We're not, although we do, the floorboards still kind of, when they shake, when the trains go by in the back building that isn't part of the venue or the guest experience, we still get beans dropping, shaking out of
No
the
way.
bins overhead. But we do very much consider it, bringing back to that vibrancy, this space as a hub for connection, for journeys, for entrepreneurship and creativity.
Oh my goodness. You could not have said that any more perfectly. It's so lovely. So, so lovely.
Well,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm really grateful that you asked me that question on our discovery call because I really took it for granted. And, a beanery isn't like super alluring. It's not like this was a former, you know, Levi's factory or a China factory. It was a beanery. But in the 19th century, for the agricultural economy in central New York, it was very, very important.
I love it. And I am seeing that this rising generation actually is caring more about some of those things. And it's, I talk a lot about the fact that even people that aren't religious are wanting to have chapel ceremonies. And all across the country, people are building little white chapels on their venues because there is this draw, I think, for Gen Z to go back to like the connectivity to tradition and maybe some history and things like that. So I think it's great. So, so great. So with that, how does your background as a documentary film professor and a studio potter and all of that? I love seeing some of your pictures on Instagram. I saw you with a little class that you were teaching. And then Keith with he does architectural metal work. How does that kind of combo inform your work together as venue owners and operators?
Right. I love this question because we don't sort of come to this from any kind of traditional path. I was not an event planner previously. I was not a hospitality professional, nor is Keith. I mean, um, but as someone, as you mentioned, trained in documentary, trained in teaching, and it just happens that education and storytelling are a really big part of being a venue owner, and
Mhm.
especially a really big part of working with couples at this really important moment in their journey. And so, for 25 years, I was teaching young people how to document and really do justice to other people's stories, to listen closely, to pay meticulous attention to things that might otherwise be overlooked, to really value their voices. And oftentimes the students were really interested in the cameras and the microphones and the technology and the audio, and all of that was a part of it. But the very first thing that they needed to learn that I emphasized was really about their relationship with the people who were gifting them their stories, who were trusting them um, to tell their stories to. So paying attention is the foundation of any good story. And a story, I believe, is often the shortest distance between two people. So when people come to the venue, I don't my first question to them is not, how many guests are you having? What's your aesthetic? My first question to them is really about the story of how they met, or tell me the story of your wedding day as you imagine it. Like, I want them to step into that space of storytelling so that we can really connect. Keith's background as a metal fabricator, if you were here and I were walking you through the space, well, that would just be so obvious because the historic structures here have not only been um, renovated, repaired, and restored by Keith, they've also been enhanced and expanded and altered through Keith's metal fabrication and design. So it's this beautiful mix of 19th century buildings with very modern steel, and Keith's design eye and sensibilities and knowledge of the materials allows him to put those together in ways that flow, but that also I think kind of stop people in their tracks. And you know as a craftsman, Keith is really interested in making things with his own hands that then transform the experience of people who encounter the things he've made. So, like, when people first walk under the metal archway that Keith built, immediately they know they're someplace different. And their first question is often like, what is this place? Where am I? Like, am I in a rustic venue? Am I in a sophisticated modern venue? Like, where am I? And when
Mm.
guests arrive, they similarly will say, like, I've lived in this county all my life. I never knew this was here. Like, what was this place? And so, like, Keith's craftsmanship, his attention to details, and the way materials play with each other and with the natural environment really brings that strongly into the experience, the feeling of being at Hartlot. So I think the
Mm.
sort of storytelling and documentary and poetry of what I bring with the kind of hands-on practicality and kind of materialism that Keith brings is just a really beautiful marriage, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think when I hear you say all those things, I just think character, like it's not some cookie cutter venue that, people are kind of over that in a lot of ways. They're looking for what is that, I talk a lot about what's your differentiating factor. Like everything about Heartlet happening is different. You guys have a lot of unique things that you bring. And I think that is, yeah, definitely something that I think is a draw for people for sure. And I want to commend you about what you said about, I'm not just going to ask them these, how many people are you inviting to your wedding? Like there's no connectivity to that. And I love that you're, are passionate about getting to the heart because the heart, if you could connect with someone heart to heart, oh man, like, the sale is yours most of the time, if you could connect with them in that way. So I definitely commend you for that. And I want to say it's not easy for a lot of people to do that. You have a unique ability to do that. But for those of you that are listening, I really, really want to just urge you to, if this doesn't come natural for you, stand in front of a mirror and do that. Like write out these questions and have them be so second nature to you that you're not just asking these robotic questions, that you are really, truly, genuinely, it helps when it's actually genuine, wanting to connect with them. And I could tell you for sure it's genuine for Laura. But if people could feel your authenticity, they're going to be more drawn to you, which in turn, they will be drawn to your venue, that they'll want to work with you. So, yeah, good job, Laura.
Thanks. Thanks,
For
Teresa.
sure.
And your advice from that diagnostic call was just, again, it was just 45 minutes, but you really got to the heart of it. And um, that's what helped me kind of break through um, some of the barriers that were really holding me and the venue back. I was thinking in terms of how do I quickly get up to speed in being a venue owner? And the real challenge was, how do I take, my authentic identity, my strengths, my skills, my purpose
Yes.
and put that into action in this new space, it's actually not that different from being a college professor if I'm sort of anchored in that authenticity. And you helped me really land there, so thank you so much.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, yeah. Oh, got me choked up there. You're so precious. I feel like it that hit me because I feel like there are so many people, gosh, there are so many people in this industry that are burnout. Like soul burnt out, Laura. And I know you're new to this, so I'm not trying to scare you. But I think that I don't think I know that if we can connect to our authentic self and we do this in a way that we're not just constantly in friction, that we're gonna feel so much more joy in what we do when we could unlock that. And I think so many of us are just fighting against that. Like they're seeing what other people are doing and feeling that they have to duplicate that thing, or comparing yourself to a venue that's been around for 20 years and you're in your first 3 years and you can't do that, right? And so being able to be at peace with where you're at, the journey that you're on, and being able to do that in an authentic way is a game changer for your longevity. Um, and I could say that for myself. I mean, 32 years in this industry, like I've tried it all the ways. And the happiest I ever was when I had a team that I was connected to, that we could work together in harmony. When I had, you know, packages that felt like authentic and honest and all of it, when it all funneled through authenticity, it just felt so much better for me. And I was unapologetic about the way that I ran my business and the kind of people that I would hire. And it informed how quickly I would fire people as well. Cause I'm like, if I can't have joy in my job, what's this all about? Right? Life is short. Anyway, there's this short little TED talk. Let's, let me ask you this kind of in line with this as well. I know, you're in a totally different industry. Yes, there are some, cohesive aspects of it, but what were some of the bigger challenges for you as you left teaching, come into the wedding industry? Like, what are some of the things that took you by surprise? And I ask this question because most people that come into venue ownership, they didn't plan to be a venue owner. It wasn't like it was their lifelong desire. It just kind of like, I call them accidental venue owners. So,
Uh-huh.
what were some of the things that took you by surprise coming into being full time with a wedding venue?
Well, I'll start with a pleasant surprise, and that is how much continuity I feel between being an educator and being a venue owner. And partly that's because of the kind of educator that I was. I believe, so I believe at my core that we need hospitable spaces to do our best work, to be connected with others, to experience meaning and purpose. And whether that's a college classroom or a wedding venue, the work of creating hospitable space is the same kind of intentional work. The environment is different, your tools are different, your objectives are different, but at heart it's about leading with the intent of designing and bringing to life hospitable space. And that happens through like a million small decisions. Um, some of this I also just sort of inherited from my mom and her mom, which is just belief in the importance of a good plate of cookies when
Mm-hmm.
guests arrive.
Mm-hmm.
Belief in the importance of an open door. And these are things that I carry both from my background growing up, but also from my background as an educator, that people are at their best when the spaces they're in are hospitable. And so that continuity has been a wonderful surprise. It wasn't the big shift.
Mm-hmm.
Also, couples, by and large, the couples that I'm working with are quite young. They're recently graduated from college or that age, maybe early 30s. And so they're not that far off in age from the students I was teaching for the last
Mhm.
25 years. And this is definitely an educational journey.
Mhm.
And I'm on that journey with them. Like, there's a lot that I mean, I found your podcast because I want to learn. I need to learn about this area that is in important ways different from education. Like,
Mhm.
so much respect and love for the lifelong wedding professionals paving the way and that I get to learn from. But it is also my job still is educational. Couples who arrive have I've not yet encountered a couple who'd been married previously. This is their first wedding. There's so much that they don't know. And a lot of what they do know are sort of inherited assumptions about what a wedding should look like. The same was true with my college students. A lot of what they thought they knew about media and documentary were inherited assumptions. And my job was to sort of shake them gently loose from those fixed beliefs to consider other ways of doing the work, other ways of being. And that's what I'm trying to do here with couples is to ask them questions about not just the details of their gathering, but the purpose. Like, why do you want to gather in that way? Why is that part of the event important to you? What's the purpose of that? Not to challenge them or question um, the value, but to get them to name the value and the purpose, um, and to consider they're not locked in. There are other ways of imagining their wedding day. And to what you were saying earlier, Tirza, I'll end here. Couples, I feel, I encounter, are wanting to do things differently. They just need the space and, in some ways, like the permission um, to do things differently. They're under oftentimes a lot of pressure from invested stakeholders. Um, they're they're sort of constrained by weddings they've attended from friends or what they're seeing on social or in the magazines. And the first thing I want to do when they tour Hartlot, and I think the space is designed to sort of awaken a sense that we could do things a little differently. And that's where, like, the crafts people and Keith and I really comes into play because we're all about solving problems and figuring out how to make things work. Like, we don't only have to have ceremonies in that one corner of the property. Like, we could absolutely do that. I mean, yeah, the bike shop could be the groom's getting ready space. Let's figure that out together. So I've been really pleasantly surprised that there's so much educational work that happens in this, and that's probably why I'm really drawn to it and enjoying it.
I love that. And I will just say, because you touched on this several different times, that it's all about educating people when they come to your venue because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, venues that I talk to, we're often the first place that they go tour. And I feel like when I'm the first place, I'm the one that's having to educate them about what this whole experience is going to be like. And then all of us as venue owners, we have all inclusive, we have venue only, we have venues that have like a combo of both. And these poor kids get so confused when they come to these venues because everyone's kind of offering something different. And I think that is truly one of the biggest challenges for us as people that are leading these tours is the educational component of it. And I think they don't know what they don't know, right? And so then we jump into giving these tours and, people that listen to me know like, we're not just tour guides or a sales specialist. Like, we're really trying to think strategically about this. but we jump straight into this hard like sales process and showing them around our venue before we've truly educated them and connected with them. And it makes the job of selling so much harder when we don't do that. So I just want to highlight that the educational aspect of it is incredibly important. And you're right, that probably does give you a leg up because you are already passionate about that. But we as venue owners need to think about the fact that we can't just go straight into hard sales with these people, that we really need to soften it a little bit and educate them about what the whole process is. I even like to educate them about what the tour is going to be like, because a lot of people feel so intimidated by that process. Like, I'm sure you've seen this, Laura. You're nodding. It's like they come in and they're timid, they're kind of scared, they don't know what questions to ask. And so our job is also to tell them, all right, have you been on many venue tours before? No, this is my first one. Well, let me tell you how it's going to go. We're going to chat for a little bit. Then I'm going to show you our spaces. Then we'll circle back and we'll talk about pricing and availability and answer your questions. We're going to have so much fun together. We'll be together for about an hour, and it's just like, oh, okay, now I know what to expect.
Right, right.
Right.
I heard you say something like that in another podcast episode, and that really resonated with me. It changed the way I was approaching tours. And another thing that I've been doing, again, bringing my documentary film background, is I send couples when they book a tour, I send couples a 2-minute video of me in the space, talking to them directly. And it's essentially that first, here's an
Yes.
overview of what's going to happen here. They've kind of met me.
Mm-hmm.
They know what I look like.
Yep.
They're not, frightened by me when they walk in, and um, they've already been welcomed into the space before they get here, and that, I think, that makes a big difference. And honestly, one of the features that I want to show couples is our commercial kitchen. It's something that is distinct about our venue in this area. Like, it's a fully equipped, no corners cut commercial kitchen, and the caterers that work here love it. But
Of
I'm
course.
showing them the kitchen, but then I've also got fresh baked cookies to share with them, or bread pudding or something, and so it has that dual purpose. Like, we all know that the kitchen is where all the stories happen, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's where everybody sort of dishes it out. So let's go to the kitchen really early in the tour, have some coffee, have some bread pudding or cookies, think about this space and what's possible when you have a commercial kitchen at the venue, and then we'll go from there.
Oh my goodness. You guys, listen, if you don't take anything else from this podcast today except this, I want to tell you, and we implemented this at my venue too, sending the little, two things actually, sending the video ahead of time. You guys, so many people don't do this. And so it could immediately set you apart. And it's like, I see people just like complaining about their tours or people canceling or all these things. If you go the extra mile, and guys, it's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes, probably 5 minutes total. Record it, send it, whatever, be done. Don't be like, you know, too perfectionistic. It doesn't have to be that alone speak so deeply to people, and they'll probably thank you for it. I'm sure they do thank you for it, and sometimes it could be just like, hey, it could be out in the parking lot and I can't wait to meet you. This is where you park. I'll be over here, because people sometimes don't know. They feel weird about like where to go, where to park, all this stuff. Or it could just be something as simple as, I'm so excited to see you, and using their names. It's so important so they know that this isn't some canned, video that you send to everyone. The second thing that you said, I believe this so deeply in my heart. And I've talked about this in the podcast before about eating with my staff, my full-time staff. There's something that happens when you eat together, um, that builds some connection. And I think the fact that you, uh, feed them something is really wonderful, and it's so hospitable. And being in an environment where you're sitting down, I'm just imagining you guys sitting around a little table in the kitchen and having bread pudding, and like how warm and hospitable and how it opens them up to be able to share more of their heart in that atmosphere.
And, at the same time, it allows them to experience that, part of the value of a wedding at Hartlot is that we are also sharing our hearts with them, right? So the bread
Mhm.
pudding that they're eating or the cookie that they're eating is on a plate or in a bowl that I've made. And so that's an opportunity for me to really genuinely say, and, all the pottery that you see here, the candle holders, the bud vases, all of these are yours to use if you choose. And I make them in the pottery studio at Hartlot Happening. Like, rather than just saying, check off a list of these are the items
Mhm.
that are included in your rental. Oh, and you're
Mhm.
eating off one of the plates that
Mhm.
these are yours to use if this is part of how you envision your wedding. The last video I sent, I got a notification on my phone that a couple had booked a tour, and I was really excited about this. She had a lot of questions by email before she booked the tour. I was planting the planters out in the courtyard, and I was covered in dirt. I had gloves on, my hair was up. I probably had dirt on my face. I'm like, I don't care. So it was, hey, so and so, I'm just out here planting the planters. Spring is arriving in the courtyard, but I just had to stop my shovel down and tell you I'm so happy I saw your tour come through. There'll be freshly planted planters when you arrive. I can't wait to meet you. Something like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really felt it in the moment and just took literally like 60 seconds to video it. And now that wasn't always easy for me. It certainly doesn't meet like the documentary standards, the film standards that I was operating in before, but that that's also, I have had the opportunity to let go of a lot of my own prior habits and assumptions too, to just do things differently, and it resonates with people.
It does. It does. It really does. Let's quickly touch on the fact that, we've talked a few times about Keith and the different things that you guys kind of bring together to the venue. I could say, running a venue with my husband, there's so many blessings and so many wonderful things about it. But I also know that there could be some challenges in trying to figure out roles and responsibilities and things like that. How have you guys navigated figuring out, like, which lane that you're each going to be in and come to like a good place of cohesion about that? Like, what is something that you could share with listeners that are running their venue with a life partner? Some lessons that you've learned, maybe.
Well, the first one I think is the sort of biggest sort of philosophical or kind of maybe kind of spiritual lesson in a sense of like that helps me in the day to day navigate the more logistical sort of staying in our lanes, determining our lanes, and so I hope you'll just let me go off on a little bit of a it's a
Yes,
tiny
please.
story. um, so I guess I'll share the outcome first. I mean, it helps me on just a heart level to know that anything anything Keith is doing, I trust completely. He's doing it with the intention to be helpful, to contribute, to make things easier for me and a better experience for our guests. I know that unambiguously. And the reason that I know that is, and I knew this from the start, like this is why I knew I could not only own a venue with him, but be a life partner with him. Um, just before I met Keith, I was going through a transition in my life, and I was getting divorced, a big life transition with two young children I was caring for, and deeply, deeply mindful to their experience. And, there were just days that I just would feel like I was hitting a wall, but you just have to keep going. And there was a little poem by the poet Maggie Smith that I like pinned everywhere on my computer, on my door, in my office. And the poem it's not really a poem, but a quote. Do not stop at the wall looming before you. Make a door, and make a door wide enough not only for you but for others. And that was like my mantra every day. And when Keith and I met, and one of the first photos he sent, I mean, all the first photos he sent were of Hartlot happening, text messages with photos of Hartlot happening in an earlier state of renovation. But he also sent me photos of his metal fabrication work, like architectural digest quality work. And the one that just stopped me in my tracks was of a door, a metal glass door, like something you'd see in Architectural Digest. But it was that door. It was wide enough that not only I could walk through, but I could walk through with others. And so symbolically, that told me, like, that was where that trust began to take root. So I hang on to that trust every single day. I know the ways that Keith is working, helping, are intentionally designed to make my work in some way more joyful.
Mm.
And that helps so much when it would be easy at times to just sort of get bogged down in the weeds. Um, why, why is he working on that? I think we should be working on this. I know there's an intentional reason why he's doing what he's doing. And so I always start from there. Like, trust your partner, trust that they're being intentional. Um, and then the rest of it works out really easy because he wants to be hiding in the bike shop during events. He doesn't want to be out. I mean, he'll come out when there's maintenance. He calls himself the maintenance man, which is really underselling what he does here. But he loves that. Like, during an event, he wants to make sure, do all of the creative partners have the power that they need? Are all the lights working? Are the systems all running smoothly? Like, he loves that. He doesn't want to necessarily talk to people, but that's okay. I do that.
Uh-huh. I love that. So it's like you're at peace with what you guys the strengths that you both have, and you're not trying to force him to be the one greeting people or trying to make him go outside of where he needs to be to feel joy in his position there as well, which is really great. I could say that we had to figure that out. And I think that a lot of people that work with their spouse need to have the conversation and not make assumptions about what brings that person joy. And not everything that we do as venue owners is going to feel like joyful, and we're not going to always feel connected to it. But I remember when there was a time with my husband where he had been doing a lot of the manual mowing the lawn in the summer in Charlotte with 101 degrees and doing all these things, where he's coming home and he's so exhausted. And we made the decision to bring him in-house to do a little bit more admin stuff more of the week and hire someone to do some of those things outside that were just exhausting him so much. And that decision alone, which seems really small, really opened him up to be able to enjoy his role at our venue a little bit more. And so I think, and some of those seasons change too. And so I think um, communication with your spouse about, at least once or twice a year about, just checking in with each other is really important too. So, and not making assumptions. And I believe with all of my heart what you said, Laura, about trust. It is the building block for healthy relationships, a healthy business, all of that. It's really important.
And it works, obviously, it has to work both ways, right? And move
Exactly.
in both directions. And so, similarly, if he sees me, digging in, working on some aspect of the venue, um, he understands that there's a purpose behind that, and he's going to
Hmm.
support me. And it might not be the same timing how he would have done it, but he trusts my process in the same way I trust
Exactly.
his. And
I love that. So, two last quick more questions for you. I know a lot of people are talking about what the market is like in their neck of the woods all across the country. I'm curious, this is a total conversation shift. So, sorry about the whiplash here. But it's a curious question I know a lot of people have. So you're up in the Finger Lakes in New York. So what is the market like for you right now in terms of tours and bookings? Kind of what's the pulse like for you right now in your business?
Yeah, I would say that things are definitely busy right now. We had a brutal winter. It was so, so cold and it just seemed to last forever. So there was like an initial kind of flurry after the new year, after the holiday, and then things started to quiet down a little bit, like as winter just wouldn't go away. So tours are starting to pick back up, and I love this time for tours because oftentimes I can get tours in early in the morning of a wedding day when they can see, planners are
Hmm.
here setting up, the florists are arriving with flowers, and the caterers getting busy in the kitchen. Like they can see some of that in action and they get to see how smoothly things flow. Like the space has also been really designed for the other craftspeople working here, like to make sure that they have the space and the things that they need. So I love that tours are picking up right now and they get to see some of that, pre-event activity happening. I'm also seeing, and this is really great timing for us, I'm seeing a lot of interest in staying on site. Like, so a lot of questions I'm getting on our inquiry form are I'm interested in X, Y, and lodging on site. And we are 21 days away from opening our guest house that we've been renovating. We're opening that in, yeah, 21 days. And so that has also opened a lot of doors for couples who might not have considered us because we didn't have guest lodging on site. That's
Hmm.
also opened doors for wedding weekends, and I'm seeing a lot of interest in that in the market right now as well. Wedding weekends, and we would love to. We love those experiences where the same couple, their family, their closest friends are with
Hmm.
us all weekend long.
Mhm. I love that. Well, we could probably do a whole podcast just about how that all works and logistics behind that. But I do agree with you that accommodations, I would say, even in the last 5 years, has become a really, really big selling point for venues and people that are putting the little, obviously you don't have a ton of land where you're at, but people that have lots of land that they're putting little cottages, like a row of cottages where you can stay, maybe 20 plus people could stay on site. Like there's just a lot with that. um Not appropriate for everyone, of course, but definitely a big draw, I'm sure.
We've
So
definitely got plans.
yes, how much land do you have actually?
Well, so we've got right now between the guest house and Hartlot like 2 acres. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a house in between Hartlot and the guest house, and this dear neighbor checks in all the time to let us know that he's moving in a year and he's getting the house ready for us to buy it. And then another neighbor across the street, the kind of mirror property to Hartlot happening. Similarly, an elderly gentleman is getting ready to move closer to family. And so, within 3 to 5 years, we absolutely expect to have that kind of space, a space with 3 or 4 small dwellings and a kind of central gathering space to enjoy communally. Our guest house sleeps up to 10, so we could
Mm.
easily within 3 or so years have space for 20 to 25, and then we'll definitely be at a new phase where Laura and Keith aren't wearing all the hats, but we're finding those people that we can trust to join us in the work, like you said, Tirza.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. Well, as we wrap up today, Laura, I just want to. I was thinking about this this morning before we started recording, and being a person of just like deep faith personally, and knowing how much that has helped me in my life, and like staying in a place of gratitude, I'm like, this is going to be a new mojo for us on the podcast to just end each time with a venue owner asking this simple question: what are you most grateful for when it comes to being a venue owner?
I am simply grateful for just the deep privilege of getting to help steward and shepherd these experiences for and these lifelong memories for people. I'm so grateful for the trust that couples put in us, that their families put in us in the space. I'm grateful that they see something here, and that they are entrusting this life moment to our space, and to us to help bring it to life for them. It it really feels like a gift, and that's also something that I think humbles us it humbles me in the process of like, this is not a sale. This is a moment that these beautiful humans are going to remember for their entire life. And
Uh,
I'm dialed into the details and timing and all of that on the day of a wedding, the day before a wedding, but I am never losing sight of the fact that there are humans, there are particular humans at the center of this experience, and they need to stay the center.
yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
really grateful for that. That brings a lot of meaning to the work for me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And it helps on the days that we're just very tired to keep that in mind. It's a great motivator for sure. So thank you for sharing that. Definitely connect with that myself as well. But that is all we have for you as listeners today. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. And I thank you, Lora, for taking the time out of your day to spend it with us, and helping just bring encouragement to the people that listen to the Venue Success podcast. So we will see you next time, my friends, on the Venue Success podcast.